Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I hope you are going to be inspired with a beautiful bundle by Stampin' Up. I'm going to give us a moment here, see if I can find us on Facebook so I can read your comments and see who's on. And then we'll wait a minute or two and get started. I am right on time now. I was a few seconds early, maybe like half a minute. Let's see who jumps on tonight, and then we'll get started. Okay. So if you haven't joined me before, go ahead and comment and let me know where you're from and if this is your first time watching. Okay. Oh, let me pull this down so you can see this a little bit better. There we go. This is a very important sale coming. Starts tonight at midnight, 12:01 a.m. Mountain Time, June 5th. But if you're here in the Pacific Northwest, that will be at 11:01 p.m. this evening. Okay, and it is a stamp and die bundle sale, and you'll save stamp and die bundles when you normally purchase them. If you purchase them in a bundle, you save 10% automatically over the cost of the individual items. During this sale, Stampin' Up! Is going to take an additional 10% off of the bundle price. So that's going to save you some extra money. And it's the first time that I know of that Stampin' Up! Has done that before. That's pretty exciting. And this will last until the end of the month. But be aware, it's while supplies last. So when things sell out, you'll have to see if they're going to come back before the end of the month. There are no guarantees. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to use one of the bundles that should be on sale tonight. It's called Layers of Beauty. This is a 9-piece photopolymer stamp set. It has one very large stamp in it and then some smaller ones with some sentiments. Included in the bundle is the Layers of Beauty dies. So you get these 11 dies. Actually, yeah, there's 11. One of them is over here because we're going to use it tonight. And these are what we call bonus pieces. They don't actually cut out anything. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, 5 of those that don't actually cut anything out as images. The rest of these cut images. And then in addition to this special bundle, what did I do with those? They're very important. Where did I set them down at? Right here. We have the Layers of Beauty Decorative Masks. So for this, you get 5 masks so that you can easily color your images. And the really cool things about these are each mask is numbered in the order, and then you have this little notch. So if you put it down on your paper and you draw that notch, you'll always know where the next one needs to line up at. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. Hello, Tracy. Thank you so much for joining me. So glad to have you here. So hopefully by the time we're done tonight, I will have convinced you that you really need this bundle because I love it so much and I had so much fun with it. And of course, I'll be using this again on Thursday night during a YouTube live. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I've got a couple of tricks to show you. So I'm going to bring in my Misty, and I've got the largest stamp, and I've pre-stamped this on a piece of basic white cardstock, and I just did it in black. This is just a template for us, okay? So go ahead and stamp your big image, put it down, stamp it up, however you want. It's best if you use a stamp positioning tool for this. You would put it down and then you would stamp it, and then you would take this to your die cut machine and cut out this piece with your die. Okay? Do that 2 times on 2 different pieces of paper. Okay? Then this is going to be your template to keep in your stamp case for future references. And you're just going to put this back in the corner. It'll work perfectly each time. Just put it back in the corner. Because this is photopolymer, we can see through it. So we can easily line this up. Hello, Cynthia. Just by placing that right over the top of our already stamped image. We're going to take a little extra second to make sure that's perfectly lined up, because we need it to be able to cut out our flower. Okay, so that looks good to me. I'm going to go ahead and pick that up with the cover of my stamp positioning tool. All right, now ahead of time, I took and cut out several of these little rose images, just blanks. I didn't stamp anything on them, I just cut a bunch of them. And this die will cut easily 2 at a time. So if you take a quarter sheet of cardstock and layer 2 of them together, you will be able to get at least 8 of these out of that quarter sheet. Okay? So do that. And then you'll have these. And then you're going to take this blank and put it in here. And for this particular card, I want these in gray. So I'm going to use basic gray. And then I'm just going to ink up the center. That's all I need, because this is the flower that I want. Oh, can you see it? Let me move this over. This is the flower that I want right here. So as long as I have that section well inked, I'm in good shape. Okay, let me move this. And then I'm just going to take and lay that down and give that a press. And when I'm done with that, I have a perfectly die cut piece, all stamped and ready to go. Now, if for some reason it isn't perfect, then you can easily take and wipe that off. That one's not quite as exact as I would like. It's pretty close, but it isn't absolutely perfect, and that's going to bother me. So I'm going to pick this back up. And this time, I'm actually going to take this and I'm going to put it back in here, just so I know where I went wrong a little bit. And I'm going to move that over just a tiny little bit, because that's going to make the difference. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and get another one, because I'm going to go ahead and do one for this project and one for my next project right now. So let's go ahead and get that basic gray again. And I'm just going to ink that up. Make sure everything's good in the corner there. And I'm going to press that down. Okay, now this time I have that exactly where I would like it to be. Okay, so I've got the one in basic gray now for this project. I've already done ahead a bunch of them. And now I want to do one in basic black for my next project. So I'm just going to clean off that gray. And I'm going to grab my Memento Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to make sure that that's in the corner. I'm going to ink that up. Oh, I bet y'all were screaming at me. I forgot to put the blank in there. Okay, let's get the blank in there. And then let's give that a good press. Okay, and now I have one for my next project. All right, so let's go ahead and clean that back off. So we're going to need this stamp one more time, but not in this position. So I'll be moving it for the next project. Okay, now remember I told you to make 2 of those. I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to ink this with our blending brushes. Okay, so we're going to bring in the second one of those that I have stamped and die cut out. And this time, we're going to take this one, and all of my tape I had stuck along the side has disappeared. Does that ever happen to you? I put it on there right before we started, and then I must have leaned up against it, and somehow it rubbed off. Okay, I'm going to tape this down. Just a little bit of Post-it tape. This is just my template, doesn't matter. Okay, so let's start with the first card. And I'm just going to pop my blank in here again. Now, I suggest you put a little bit of removable tape in here, because occasionally that will lift up out of there, and you don't want it to. Not that it's a disaster, because I had it happen to me quite a bit. We're going to make a pink. Pretty in Pink is what I'm going to use for my first layer on this. And wouldn't you know, I put all of my brushes away before we started, which was kind of silly, but we'll just grab them real quick. And let's see, I'm going to use this. Okay, so I've got Pretty in Pink. And I'm going to take this and on my glass mat, which will be available soon. It's available tonight for pre-order for demonstrators, and then it will be available to the public as an online exclusive beginning in July. So I just put a little bit of the Pretty in Pink in there, and I'm going to take my blending brush, and I'm just going to grab up some of that ink. But, you know, before I do that, it would be smart to grab my my layering stencils, because it doesn't do us any good if we don't have the stencils, right? Okay, so I'm going to take number 1, and I've got my blank in there. Now, the easiest way to line this up is there's in the center here, there's some little sections for the middle of these little flowers right here. And if you line those up, you are pretty golden. So let's get those in there and line them up. And if you look for that each time, and then just kind of slide things in to make it look good. Okay, so I've got that lined up and that one lined up, this little one, this one, and this one, and everything else looks good. And of course my my Post-it tape disappeared. Okay, you can hold this. If it moves a tiny bit, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to take that ink. I'm going to start on the plastic, and I'm going to ink up my blank. Okay, so there's my first layer. I'm going to lift that up. I'm going to move on to layer number 2. That's 5. So I had these in the right order too, but apparently I don't. 5, 4, 3, and 2. There we go. Okay, so here's number 2. Again, I'm going to look for those little flower centers. And if I can get those to line up, then I can pretty much get everything else to line up. Okay, so I've got that. tape that. And if you can tell, I've got this, the flower center, and flower center, and everything else looks good. So I'm going to go back to my pretty in pink. I'm going to get some more of that on the brush. I'm going to go a little bit darker. Okay. And there we are with that layer done. Okay, let's set that aside. We'll move on to number 3. And again, I'm looking for the flower center holes. So I'm going to line all those up. All those flower center holes. Make sure it looks good over the other flowers. And tape that down for a second. Okay, now I did one of these completely with pretty in pink. I want to show you again. I've got those flower centers all lined up. But I didn't like there wasn't enough contrast for me for the third layer. So I'm just going to put a little tiny bit of Melon Mambo there. I'm going to use my same brush. And then I'm just going to swirl in a little bit of color. Okay. And then I'm going to lift that up and check to see if it's what I want. Oh yeah, much better this time. I like that a lot better. Okay, so I'm good with that. That's layer number 3 done pretty easy. Now we're going to move to the leaves, and this is layer number 4. Here, I'm going to layer up my leaves. They layer pretty nicely. And really, the only 3 I care about are these 3 right here. And if those are lined up, I'm good as gold. Because those are the only 3 I care about. Okay, so we're going to take Garden Green. Okay, take Garden Green. And hang on for 1 second. I'm going to wipe this off. Get rid of that pink so I don't get green in my pink. Okay, then I'm going to dry that. This is a cloth that I got with my Stampin' mat, with my glass mat. And then I'm going to put down a little bit of green right onto my glass mat. I'm going to pick that up with my blending brush. And then I'm just going to put a light coat of the Garden Green there. Happy with that. And we're going to take that off. And then we're going to use our final layer, which is number 5. And let's put that back down. I left my Post-it tape on the other. Stencil. Okay, so now we're going to pick up some more green. I'm going to go a little bit darker. Okay, and there we are. So now I can lift this out of here. And I have a beautiful rose that I did easily, lined it up really easy, and it turned out beautifully. Okay, so for the card that we're working on, I would do that in these colors as well. Highland Heather, Calypso Coral, Lemon Lolly, and Blueberry Bushel. Okay, so you need 1 of each for this card, and just repeat those steps. But while you're at it, just cut a bunch of blanks and do 2 or 3 flowers all at once, and then you'll have a whole bunch ready to go when you want a card. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do one more of these for the next card, and it's the one that I stamped in black. I'm going to do it while I've got this all here and ready to go, because it's just easier. This time, though, we're going to use Fresh Freesia and Highland Heather. Okay, so I'm going to set these other pads aside that I don't need. I'm going to leave that green there because I'm going to use it. And in fact, because of the way we're doing this, I'm going to go ahead. The green's all there. It's all ready to go. My blank is in here. It's ready to go. So I'm going to start with number 4 this time and do my greenery. No, this is the one I want, number 4. I just didn't have it in the right spot. Okay. So again, I'm looking at those 3 leaves. Everything else will kind of slide into place once you get those 3 leaves right there, ready to go. And I forgot to stop leaving my Post-it tape on the last stencil. Oh, thanks, Tracy. I really like how easy this is. So again, I'm going to take that garden green and I'm just putting a light coat. I used garden green for all of the green on all of my roses. Kept it simple. Okay, we're going to put this right back on here. Line those up. Tape that down. And then I'm going to go back in with a little bit more of the garden green. And you can use as much or little as little as you want, depending on how dramatic you want it to be. Okay, so now I've got the green done on this already. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to start on my Fresh Freesia and Highland Heather. And let's get our brush here. Okay, now I don't want too much, too dark on the first layer. So my brush here is pretty saturated with color. So I'm going to take and I'm going to rub it on my chamois here, which is barely wet. And then I'm going to rub it on a towel. Okay, and that's going to take some of that color out so that I don't have a lot of color. And you can see that when I try to rub it right there. Okay, so now we're going to start with Fresh Freesia. And again, I'm going to put a little bit on my glass mat. And then I'm going to pick that color up. Oh, and before I do anything though, I'm going to take a baby wipe and give that a quick wipe and get that pink off. Because I don't want pretty in pink or melon mambo in my purple. And if all you really need to do is just dab it, the color will come right off. And when you're all finished for the day, just take it to your sink, rinse it off, and stand it up in the drainer and let it be. Okay, I'm wiping it on my pants real quick. And then, if I had a towel here, I could do that. But I'm going to line that up again. And remember, with this, I'm looking for the centers of my flowers, which I'm covering with the stencil. And then let's put that down. Okay, and we'll pick up that Fresh Freesia. Oops, it's wanting to move a bit on me. There we go. So we've got that. Okay. And then for layer number 2, I'm going to bring in the Highland Heather. Let's go ahead and line this up. Again, looking for those flower centers. As long as I'm looking for those, I am in good shape. Okay, got them lined up. That one needs to go just a tiny little bit. There we go. The other spot that I look for is right here. There's a line right here and then a piece of the plastic stencil there. And if that lines up pretty good along with those flower centers, you're good. Okay, this time let's get our Highland Heather. And I'm going to put some of that right here. I'm going to use the same brush. And I'm going to add that to my rose there. We're going to take a look at that. Yep, I've got the contrast I'm looking for. And then we'll take number 3 and I'm going to line those holes up with those tiny little flower centers. And when those all line up correctly, then this one will line up perfectly as well. Oops, I moved that. I'm going to put my Post-it tape down. Moved it just a tiny bit. Okay. And again, I'm going to use the Highland Heather. I'm going to go back over this a little bit more aggressively this time. I want quite a bit more because I want a nice deep center contrast. Okay, so let's check that out. And there we go. A beautifully colored rose. Okay, now for the second card, you'll need to do that twice. We need 2 of these. All right. So that's all done. Let's put this stuff out of the way. We're done with that. And let's go ahead and bring in our other pieces. Let me wipe this clean real quickly. I love this glass mat because you can just use it, wipe it, go. Okay. So I'm going to set those all aside. And we're going to grab our pieces for this card. Okay, let's get these out of the way so we don't end up with ink where we don't want it. So I'm using the Cute Crochet 3D embossing folder. This is new in the annual catalog. And I have taken a piece of basic black cardstock. And this is 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, and we're going to run that through the cut and emboss machine because I thought I already did it, but I didn't. So we'll do it together. And as a reminder, those cut and emboss machines are on sale starting tonight or tomorrow, if you want to officially say tomorrow, for 10% off. Okay, hang one moment and I'll grab my plates. Sorry about that. I thought I had this done, but apparently I didn't do that this morning. Okay, so we've got the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Our 3D embossing plates take plate number 1. Then we put our 3D embossing folder in spine first with the cardstock inside. Let me straighten that up. Stampin' Up! Has a black line here so that you can lay your cardstock right up against that line, especially for these folders that have very definite straight lines. And then we're going to put plate number 4 on top. We're going to roll that through. All right. And that is all there is to that. So now we can take this out. Excuse me. Still dealing with the pneumonia. Maybe one day. I won't. But that day's not today. Okay, so we've got our black layer ready to go. Now we're going to go ahead and we've got the pink flower that I did. Off screen, I did blue. I did Calypso Coral. And let me find the rest of mine in this little package of things. Okay. Actually, this one might be Poppy. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's Poppy Parade or Calypso Coral. Okay, where's my yellow one? Oops, we need a yellow one. Oh, here. Let's find the other ones in here, maybe. There we go. Okay. This is how the Pretty in Pink looked with just Pretty in Pink, and I didn't like the contrast. So that's why I went to the Pretty in Pink with the Melon Mambo, a little more dramatic. So for this one then, let's go ahead and before we actually do this, let's just put this on our card base because we're not doing anything to the card base. So we're just going to take our thick basic white 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of cardstock, which I scored at 4 1/4 in the center. And we're going to fold that over. And then we're going to add this to the front of our card. Okay. Now, because it is, you know what? This is the front or the embossed side, and this is the debossed side, and I actually like it better. So I'm going to go ahead and put my glue on what we would ordinarily call the front, but I'm going to put it on here. Okay. And then I'm going to add this to the front of my card. Sorry. Okay, so then we're just going to give that a good press. I like to flip it over, take my bone folder and burnish that liquid glue in. Okay, so now we're going to start on our card here. So I'm going to start with the pink. I'm going to put this down, and then we'll go purple, and I'm going to slip this one in here, Calypso Coral. That might be Poppy Parade. I can't tell which is Calypso Coral and which is Poppy Parade. They both look so darn close to each other. And then I'm going to put this in down here like this. I'm going to fix these a little bit though. Okay. And this up here like this. Pull my yellow a bit. Okay. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to start with my pink up here at the top. I'm going to just lay this one down flat. And I'm going to slide that back in about there. Okay. And then I'm gonna take my lavender flower here. I'm gonna put a little bit of liquid glue, and then I'm gonna take a glue dot or a dimensional, and I'm gonna put that on top. And I'm gonna slide this here, and I don't want to hit this one with the dimensional yet. Okay. And then we're going to get this one I might have put that too far over now, my dimensional. Should have waited on that. Hang on. I'm going to move it more up here so I'm not fighting that dimensional. I'm kind of weaving these in all together like so. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's go ahead. We'll put a dimensional at the top of this one. And again, I'm going to put a little bit of liquid glue at the bottom. And I'm going to slide this in here and here. I'm not going to push anything down yet. And then I'm going to get another dimensional here. I'm excited for you, Tracy. And for the yellow one, I'm going to go ahead and pop the whole thing up. And I'm going to put this in here. Okay. And then we're going to put this blue one down here, kind of like this. I'm pretty good with that placement at this point. So again, I'm putting my dimensional at the top and a little bit of liquid glue at the bottom. And then I'm just going to slide this in here where I want it. Kind of like that. Okay. So now that all of our flowers are in, we need a sentiment. So we're going to set this aside for a minute. And we're going to bring in a piece of basic white cardstock. Just a scrap. And for this one, I'm going to use my Mini Misty. I'm going to take this stamp off of here, set that aside, and I'm going to take some temporary adhesive and I'm going to put this down here, like so. Is that going to close? Yep, it'll close. Okay, then I'm going to take from the stamp set, You Make My Heart Smile. And I'm going to put this down here, like so, right at the bottom of that cardstock. Try to line it up straight. Looks good. I'm going to close the door. Okay. And I'm going to get my Embossing Additions toolkit. I'm going to use my embossing buddy so I don't get a bunch of static there. Okay. And then we're going to emboss this in black. So let's go ahead. I've got my black embossing powder here. I'm going to open it so it's all ready to go. Then I'm going to get my Versamark sticky ink. I'm going to ink this up. Okay. And give that a good press. And I'm going to do it a second time just to make sure I got enough. Didn't miss any sections. And then I'm going to lift this up. Bring in my embossing powder. Pour that on. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and dump this back in because we're going to do embossing on the next card as well. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, I think it's black too. So I think we're good there. All right, let me get that out of the way. Now I see I've got some spots where I maybe don't want some black. Then we're going to bring in our heat tool and my reverse tweezers. And I'm going to heat up my tool. I like to give my paper just a little bit of heat from the bottom to start because it starts to warp. And then when I turn it over, it'll warp the other way. And I'm just going to heat set that until it goes shiny. Okay, there we are. That all looks good to me. Now, let's go ahead and wipe this off. Because I'm going to use this again, but not with that stamp. And we'll set that aside. And then we're going to bring in our trimmer. And bring this down here. And I'm going to set this in here. And I figured out that if I did this at about 3/8 of an inch, that was about what I wanted. Okay, that all looks pretty straight. Just make sure we're good. And then I'm going to slice that off. And now I've got my sentiment strip. Let's go ahead and put that in. Trim up the end. Trim up the end. And our sentiment is ready. Okay. Now let's bring back in our card. And we're going to take this and we're going to set it across our bouquet of roses here. So this half is going to lay on one that's already popped up, and this one is not. So we need to get a mini dimensional, excuse me, and put it right here on this end. And let's see how that's going to lay. That looks pretty good to me. And then we'll put just a little bit of seal there. Peel off that backing. Add this to our card. And there we are. Okay, to finish the front of this card off, we're going to take the 2024 to 2026 in color gems. And whoops, I'm going to take the Petunia Pop, and I'm going to put 2 small ones down here at the bottom, and I'm going to put 1 large one right up here at the top, and there is our finished card front. Okay, I hope you like that. For the inside of the card, I took a piece of basic white 3 5/8 by 4 7/8, and I stamped these 2 small little images from, actually these 3, from that same stamp set, the Layers of Beauty. And then I used a Daffodil Delight light marker for the flower centers and the flowers there, and then a light granny apple green for the leaves with my Stampin' blend there, if I forgot to say that. And then I'm just going to put this in here. And then we have a matching envelope. I took that same image, and on the back flap, I took those two small little daisies, and there you have it. Thanks so much. I'm glad you guys like that. Yeah, I really thought the black really set that off nicely. Okay, let's go ahead, and I'm going to clean up for just a second here, and I'm going to set some things out of my way because I've got quite the little mess going already. All right, now let's grab our other pieces. And we've already done this one. So, and of course I pre-done a second one. So for this card, we're going to start with a gorgeous scrape card base layer. Let me move this out of the way. And then we've got a piece of basic black for that to go on our white focal image here as a layer. And this is 3 3/4 by 5. So this one is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Right? Let me double check that. I think, no, yeah, 3 3/4 by 5. So this one is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Yep, I am correct. Okay, so we're going to put these two pieces together. But before we do that, we've got some stamping that we need to do on here. Okay, so let's set those pieces aside. And I'm going to bring in the large Misty again. And we're going to move all of this stuff. Okay, I'm going to get that out of there. And for this, we're actually going to stick this in the middle. So I'm going to grab my sticky mat and put that down. And I'm going to stick this right here in the center. All right. I'm going to lift up my rose here. I'm going to put this down here like so. Actually, I might need to move this over a tiny bit. Hang on. Let me move this over here. So I've got a little bit more room. All right. Then I can put this down here because I really want this to go off. The idea of this is to put this in here. And then, what did I do with my second stamp set? Oh my goodness. Oh, here it is. I'm going to double check this before I get started because I want to make sure that my sentiment is going to fit. Okay. And I'm going to want to put this in here like so. Okay, I think that'll be good. Let's go with this and see how it turns out. Each one will be different, right? Oh, I want this full rose on here though. I need to move this over just a tiny bit because I need the full rose. Okay, so we want this more like this. Okay. Now we'll put that down and hope that doesn't pull up my thing. Okay, so for this one, we're going to use Memento Black ink. And I don't need to worry about inking necessarily the whole thing because I'm not getting the back of it. I'm going to ink that and see how it looks. Nope, I need a little bit more in the center here. Okay, we'll just go like that. It's fine. Make sure that's in the corner. And then we're going to give this a press. Okay. All right. Good deal. Now, I'm going to take and flip this card, and I'm paying attention to where my cardstock is here. I'm going to put this right back up there in that same spot here. Oh man. Well, let's see if that's going to make a difference. Might not. Okay, got that. All right. Now, before I touch anything, I'm going to go ahead and wipe this off so I don't get any black smears where I don't want them. Now, to avoid this, you could just tape your paper. Okay, there we go. All right. So now I've got that. I get this out of here. And I'm going to clean that off. And clean this off because we're going to take this off of here. Okay, so we've got that. Now let's remove this and set it aside. Okay, I'm going to put this back in here. Okay, then we're going to get that sentiment here. And I'm going to put this down here like so. But I need to remove my mat because this is not photopolymer. So let's double check the placement again. That looks good to me. All right. Now we're going to go ahead with this. I'm going to use my embossing buddy. Okay. I'm going to get my Versamark ink again. I'm going to ink that up. Make sure I've got it good and inked. And then give that a press. I'm going to lift this out. And take that. And I'm not sure where I put my cover, my plastic cover, but let's set that aside. We'll bring back in our embossing powder. And we'll pour that in. Okay. Give it a good flick. Okay, I want a little bit more powder right there. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's set this aside and heat set that. Let me close my black ink pad before I have a disaster. Heat that up. Again, I'm going to heat it from the bottom for just a minute. You can actually heat set your powder from the bottom. Get that. Okay, let's make sure that's all nice and shiny. Yep. Okay. So this is what we have so far. Now we're going to take and add this to our black piece. And whoops, I'm dropping stamps. I'm going to give this a good heavy dose of. It's a little bit warped from the heat, so I'm going to use more adhesive than I normally would just to deal with the warping. Okay, so then we're going to add this to our base here, or to our base layer, which I do not have straight. Hang on. I got a lot of tape on there. I've got to see if I can get this to go the way I want it to go. Okay, I think we're looking pretty good there. There. Again, I'm going to burnish that. Help that to lay flat. Okay. And then we're going to add this to our card base. We're almost done with this card. Okay. Then we'll add this, making sure I've got it the right way open. I'm going to add this to our card base now. I think this time I'm going to use liquid glue so I can slide it into place. Okay, so let's do that. Open that up, center it all up as best that we can. Okay. And again, I'm going to flip that over. Give it a good burnish. Okay. Now we're going to take that purple flower, and I remember I had a second one that I pre-did. And of course now I found the clear plastic that I couldn't find before. Okay. So I've got another one of those. Actually, I've got two, but we've got plenty. We only need two. And then I pre-cut just some blanks. So I'm going to take two of each of these blanks, and I'm going to add them to my colored images. So I'm going to put just a little bit on the back of my floral piece here, and I'm going to line those up, and then I'm going to repeat that one more time. That gives me 3 layers of cardstock. It's not quite as thick as a dimensional, but it's going to provide us some good dimension. So we're going to do that with both of our pieces. Okay, I'm just going to line those all up. You guys, you know what I forgot to do on the last card? Hello, Jennifer. Hello, Laura. Thank you, Cynthia. I forgot to add the Wink of Stella to my roses. Can you believe I forgot that? Okay, so now we've got these ready to go. I'm going to bring in my card base, and I'm going to lay these right down over the top of my black and white. This is kind of like a spotlight technique. I'm just going to put that in there like so. Okay. And then I'm going to add this one on. Just making sure that I cover up the flower below. Okay. All right, we're almost done with this one. We are going to add, we're going to take our yellow light lemon lolly, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in here, and a little bit of yellow in there. And then we're going to take some basic rhinestones. This is the old packaging. If you order them now, this is the new packaging for the basic rhinestones. I'm trying to use up my old stock. Okay. So let's put, I'll take a small one. Oh, whoop, didn't get it picked up. Small one here, and a small one here. And then I'm going to use a medium one and put it right there. Okay. And then, really, we've got to have a little bit of Wink of Stella, don't you think? So we'll add some Wink of Stella to those roses that we colored. All right. And there you have it. Okay, now, oh, I did a different sentiment on the inside because I did a sympathy card to begin with. Okay, so I'll have to change then my sentiment here on this one, but you get the picture. And then here is the envelope. Okay? All right. So here are our projects for tonight. Let's bring those back in. I hope you like them. I hope this shows you how easy those stencils are to use. And I went with the hardest part first with just cutting out the single roses. Doing the whole thing is even easier. So there we go. All right, everybody. I'm so glad you joined me. Remember, that sale goes live tonight and goes through the end of the month. And I will see you back here on Facebook next Tuesday night at 7. I hope to see you on YouTube Thursday night at 7. Until then, have a good time and happy stamping. Good night.